All right. Welcome back to another post-game pod for the Behind the Back podcast for the Philadelphia Eagles. My name is Marcos Conan-Negron, and we are coming off of a 31-25 victory against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on the road in Tampa Bay. This was, just like last week, a tale of two halves, but it was the reverse, as it was against the Rams. You know, the Rams game, the Eagles were awful in the first half and roared back in the second half and made this amazing comeback. In this game, it was the Eagles couldn't have started better. Started with a blocked field goal, a blocked punt that got taken for a touchdown by Sidney Brown. Great job by Cam Latu to get the block. And then after that, the defense continued to make plays, get stops, and the offense went down the field at will and scored. By the time it was halftime, it was 24-6. And it was only 24-6 because Chase McLaughlin, the kicker for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, hit a 65-yard field goal to give them some points and some momentum going into halftime. And going into halftime, everything was great. Jalen Hurts was 15 of 16, 130 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and he was cooking. The offense looked smooth. Saquon, the ground game, really wasn't working that well today. Again, for the fourth consecutive week almost, the rushing offense just hasn't been there outside of Jalen Hurts, who also had 62 yards on the ground. He was averaging 7 yards a carry. It was a really good job by Jalen Hurts running the ball. But in terms of the passing offense, again, like I said, he was 15 of 16 at halftime. He finished this game 15 of 24. He didn't complete another pass in the second half, which was crazy. And I think when we look at this game, again, the Eagles pulled it out. And the defense made some big plays. But this game was looking really good, but we had a couple rookies make a couple rookie mistakes. And, Jihaad Campbell got burned for a 72-yarder against Bucky Irving. And Andrew Mukuba gave up a big play to Mukuba for 77 yards. But outside of those two big plays, the Eagles' defense was doing a really good job. And in the second half, the stats won't tell you that, right? Because in the second half, the Buccaneers had 275 yards of total offense. And again, aided by those two huge plays. So the numbers are going to be really weird when we talk about like the Buccaneers. So Baker Mayfield, 22-40, 289 yards, 2 touchdowns, and he had a crucial interception again thrown to Jihaad Campbell that was tipped by Reed Blankenship late in the fourth quarter. That was a huge turning point of that game. Especially, it was one of the rare opportunities that they got to get into the red zone to get their chance to potentially tie this game up when it was 31-23 at the time. And it ended up being a Jihaad Campbell interception. So again, Baker had 289 yards, removed the 2 big deep shot plays, and he has 140 yards in this game. He wasn't that great. And he was under pressure, but he had a couple big runs in this game. And he had this back-breaking one in the fourth where he really willed himself to get 6 yards, and it was a really good play. I thought he was going to be sacked, and he broke free, got the first down, and then that led to the interception play a couple plays later. So that was on the same drive. So it was a drive killer for him to get that interception that really killed any momentum they had at the very end. But the Eagles' offense was doing everything they can to let the Buccaneers come back in this game. And somehow, some way, the defense, forced a fumble on Bucky Irving, and then they got the interception on Baker Mayfield. And the Buccaneers, just like how the Rams struggled on third down last week, it was the same thing. The Eagles' third down defense was wonderful. The Bucs went 3 of 13. That really was the difference in this game, and it would have looked a lot different. I think the score would have looked a lot different if the Eagles didn't have all these self-inflicted wounds. And on defense, they were having penalty after penalty. The Buccaneers were not driving up and down the field in this game. Like, it was either those 2 big touchdown plays, those huge bombs, right, those explosive plays, and then it was a penalty here, a penalty there, multiple penalties on those drives to help the Buccaneers get closer and closer, and then ultimately the Bucs would kind of fizzle out on third down and still give the Eagles an opportunity. And it was frustrating. The Eagles punted 7 times in this game, and it felt like the Eagles had all the answers in the first half. They were getting creative. They were having shovel passes for touchdowns. That's both plays to Dallas Goedert, and they were really creative. They looked really awesome. And then for some reason, they decided to run just 6-7 straight curl routes to A.J. Brown in the second half, like no creativity whatsoever. They weren't even targeting Goddard, and Smitty. It was a weird game. And I think now the preseason's over, right? Preseason for the starters is over. The first 4 weeks are done. The Eagles are 4-0. And I should have led with the show saying that we're 4-0. So why does it feel like, this frustrating to be 4-0, which is it's such a weird spot. I think now we're starting to see this Eagles offense like lack consistency. And it shouldn't be lacking consistency. And again, we have 31 points on the board. A lot of that was helped by our defense and special teams. And I just think that, again, this is the Eagles' way. Don't turn the ball over, which we didn't. Win with our defense, which we did. And just try and make a play here and there, which we did. So, like, all those boxes got checked in this game. But the second half was awful. I think the Eagles, I don't have the numbers here. The Eagles had 200 total yards, and it basically felt like they had 25 yards in the second half. They were just it was shut down, and I was just sitting there waiting for the top to come off. But the defense kept making good play after good play at the end, and the Eagles' defense, to their credit, was doing a great job just keeping the things in front of them. Outside of those two big plays, again, the Eagles' defense was doing a really good job against this Buccaneers offense. They just gave the Buccaneers a lot of opportunities, and the offense wasn't helping them out either. So it wasn't as complimentary as it felt recently. So we're looking at this again, 4-0. Still so many questions to be had with this team, and I'm a little bit worried, like in the sense of how can we consistently keep this up? Again, we went to Tampa Bay. We beat them at their home in 100-degree weather, and it was a hard-fought, gritty win. So, like, you take that into, like, okay, you played on the road against a team that's had your number. There's every reason why you could have blew this lead. And, the Buccaneers were in very much a similar spot these past few weeks too, right? They start off strong, and then they get behind, and then they ended up winning these past 3 weeks. And Baker almost had another opportunity to go 4 in a row and come back. That would have been his first win down 21 points out of, I think he was 0-38 previously, so he is now still 0-39. But that was as close as he was going to get to having that opportunity to win the game. So the Eagles' offense, I don't know what's happening. I don't know if this is just this is the questions that we keep having. Is this the identity thing? Is this a coaching thing? Is this a Jalen thing? But Tua looked like he had some plays in his bag this week. They even did a fake tush push, which gave us pushed us to 31 points, where it was 4th and short, lined up for the tush push, or 3rd and short. And it was early in the fourth quarter, and we ran a fake, got Saquon on the outside, went all alone for a touchdown. And again, that was the deal. That was basically the game ender, because they couldn't get up to tie it up at the 31, right? So, so we have plays like that. And then again, we're just consistently running the same play with A.J. Brown, and Jalen Hurts was throwing it into harm's way a lot in the second half. And it was terrifying. Like, it wasn't a good performance in the second half at all. The first half was incredible. And it just made me wonder, great adjustment by the Bucs to, muck things up for the Eagles, because they didn't feel like they had any answer. The blitz, the Eagles did a really good job. Jalen was doing a really good job all game. Towards the end of the game there, he struggled a little bit. But overall in this game, Jalen did a good job against the blitz. And again, they made enough plays. They survived their own self-inflicted wounds. They didn't play their best for the entirety of the game, and yet they still came out and won against a good Bucs team. Now, the Bucs were depleted. They a lot of Bucs guys went down in this game. So the Bucs were resilient. They've been here before. And it just felt like they were not going to go away quietly. And Baker did everything he could to give them a chance, but he just made the one crucial mistake at the end. So this was a good test for this defense. The Eagles defense, you can tell, still a lot of moving parts, still a lot of things to work on. You can clearly tell how Jalen Carter is playing hurt. He had to sit out for part of the fourth quarter, ended up finishing those last 2 possessions and playing and trying to make an impact. And he did, and he got involved, but he also had one of the 8 penalties that this Eagles defense alone received. Like, it was basically the Eagles defense, penalty after penalty. Quinyon and Cooper had a penalty on back-to-back, and it was a pass interference and a taunting call because Cooper stepped over the guy he tackled. And then I'm trying to think, there was a roughing the passer, there was a hands to the face. Like, there was just so many not ticky tack. There was just so many frustrating calls, like self-inflicted. Like these guys made big plays and then just ruined it, killed all that momentum by making just a crucial little mistake. And those 15 yards, those 30 yards were giving up a drive after drive after drive, kept the Bucs within striking distance. If we had no penalties in this game, we're winning this game 31-13. The Bucs wouldn't have had the opportunity to score because the Eagles defense was playing well. The numbers are going to be a little bit deceiving because of those two big plays, but overall, it really wasn't, all systems go for the Bucs. The Eagles defense was generating pressure. They were getting home on some of these blitzes. They had 2 sacks, especially towards the end. At the last drive, they got a huge sack. Moro Ojimo did get a huge sack, was able to get Baker finally, and that really set them up in good field position for us to seal the deal. And overall, I'm impressed with the defense. This is the youngest defense in the NFL. There's a lot of growing pains that comes with being the youngest defense in the NFL with good, savvy veterans to get the job done, right? And that's how the Eagles have been so successful. And the fact that they are putting this much trust in their defense is good. Like, I think that people are like, oh, it's not the same defense as last year. I think if you give it a little bit more time, we're going to see in a few more weeks this defense get even more solid as guys get more and more used to their roles. So I thought overall that it was a good game, minus a few mental errors, whether it was those big plays given up or the penalties. So I think if the defense can clean that up, they're going to start being in that conversation and being that top 5 unit again, especially from a numbers perspective too, because the numbers don't show that this year. But the Eagles have been one of the best third down defensive teams this year. They are doing such a good job of getting off the field in crucial spots, and I think that if the offense keeps playing the way they are, it's going to take away some of the great work that the defense is doing. And we cannot be punting 7 times a game. We cannot be non-existent. We cannot be this inconsistent on a week-to-week basis and expect to win in the NFL. I don't understand, when the instant reaction is like, how did they win this game? It just felt like they shouldn't have won this game. And that's kind of been, part of the story all year. And that's going to be something, again, it's not like we're playing cookie cutter teams either. The Buccaneers are a good team, depleted as they are still a good team and a well-coached team. So, this is a good win on the road in tough weather against a team that has had your number. So again, I'm not going to take that for granted. That's a great win. And then, this was one of the games on the schedule where I was like, yeah, if we're trying to pick a loss here and there, this is probably a game I would have chose for the Eagles to lose. Obviously, I didn't. I chose the Eagles to win this game, and the score was pretty close from what I had. But this was another reminder that the Eagles kind of feel like they could do what they want. Like when things aren't working and the offense isn't clicking, they still trust this defense. And I think they trust this defense more than any unit on the field. That's what the vibes are giving me. That's what the actions of the Eagles offense is telling me, is that they trust their defense. And you may want Jalen Hurts to try and throw it more, and he did. He had opportunities in the second half. It just was not good at all. He was missing throws. Opportunities weren't there. That Bucs defense adjusted really well. So I don't know, man. It was a weird game, and maybe the weather had more to do with it than like we can see through our screens. Like obviously Brady and Burkhardt did a really good job of like expressing how hot it was and what the players were trying to do. The Eagles did a really good job this year of like trying to help themselves by getting shade for themselves, trying to help these guys and stay hydrated. The Eagles did a good job. Most of these guys stayed upright and stay healthy versus the Bucs guys who were dropping like flies. So I felt like the Eagles were prepared from that aspect this week. So that I think that helped them, especially early on. It came in the form of a really hot start. And so I don't really, there's not a lot to take away from this game in terms of good. It's more like we survived another week. We still have a lot to work on. Preseason's over now, guys. Like, we need to start getting more consistent. Now, on the plus side, now in this final stretch to the bye week, which is week 9, right? So next week is going to be week 5. We play the Denver Broncos at home. After that, we get a date with the Giants, a date with the Vikings, who are going to be coming off of 2 straight weeks in Europe, and then they're going to come back. And then we have the Giants again, and then it's the bye week. So, maybe don't sleep on the Giants after they surprise the Chargers, right? So Jackson Dart, it's going to be a fun game, but you get opportunities against teams now. The schedule starts to get a little bit lighter before we start hitting those juggernauts after the bye week. The Eagles are a great team at adjusting. They're a great team at being self-aware and figuring out what needs to get done to be better. And they said this after the game. They're like, don't let good get in the way of being great. Sirianni messaged, that was his message to the guys post-game, and Jalen echoed that in the post-game conference. Now, A.J. Brown, who finished this game with 2 catches and 7 yards. Again, another week of not a good performance for A.J. Brown. He was targeted 9 times, albeit 6 of them were the same freaking curl route, and the Bucs were sitting on top of it. He decided to go to Twitter, X, and post some lyrics. And the lyrics say here, quote, "If you're not welcomed, not listened to, quietly withdraw. Don't make a scene. Shrug your shoulders and be on your way." Now, we can interpret this a gajillion different types of ways. But after a win, after a game that you don't play well, and it's very obvious you don't play well, you post something like that. Now, that's going to go circle the media, the national media, and they're going to, pick at that all week and question the relationship between Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown again, question A.J. Brown's role in this offense again. And, I know he's probably going to talk about it and say, we're good. All's good. And it's just A.J. Brown being a diva. So how he's done this before, so I don't want to overreact to it, but I know that everyone else is going to overreact to it during the week. So it's not nothing. Again, I've already been on record, on this podcast with Ben and talked about, how I don't know if A.J. Brown's going to finish his career in Philadelphia. Given the style that they've adopted, it's shifted since he's gotten here. It went from being him as the focal point to not being the focal point anymore. And I can understand his frustration. So, we'll see what that leads to. But in terms of the product and what we're trying to do, the Eagles are winning, right? So he's going to be a good trooper. You're going to win. See what happens in the offseason or whatever you want to do there. But I think that, it's not nothing that AJ posted something like this to, it's just another week, right? Another week in Philadelphia where our players who are stars are not happy because everyone knows the standard. They know they can be so much better. And just like, the fans aren't dumb. We were watching the product that's on there. The guys are running the same routes. It looks uncreative at times and it gets stale and it makes 0 sense. The offensive line did a really great job today. Like, again, Jalen did a really good job against the blitz, and that's because the offensive line did its job. And he did a great job escaping the pocket, moving in the pocket, and also sitting in the pocket. So I thought Jalen did a really good job in this game. In the first half, I should say. And again, he didn't turn the ball over, but he could have made better throws. He could have been more accurate today. And that it was a big difference. It kept the Bucs in this game not being able to throw when the rushing offense had nothing going. And I feel bad for Saquon. I don't know what's happening. I've been talking about this these past few weeks. The rushing offense just hasn't been it. 88 total yards on the ground for this Eagles rushing offense. And 69 of them were Jalen Hurts. And obviously the number is skewed because at the very end of the game, the Eagles took a safety because they asked Braden Mann, which was a weird play with 6 seconds to go, they were going to go punt. He grabbed the punt and just ran to the back of the end zone because even if the Eagles took a safety, they weren't going to lose, right? Which is a little stressful because, if your punter gets tackled and they fumble and then it's a touchdown, it's a totally, different thing when he could have just punted it away or something like that and bought some time, made him dare for a Hail Mary. It was an interesting play call, interesting decision. But Saquon finishes with 19 carries, 43 yards. He had that touchdown, and that was off of that run for the tush, that fake tush push rushing touchdown. And he had like 3 runs in this game where he broke for almost 10 yards, but it just hasn't been there. It hasn't been there for Saquon Barkley this year. You can see his frustration. You can see the offense's frustration, and you just wonder what's going on. And I wonder if this is something that can be corrected. I don't know if this is Eagles offense not changing anything and defenses are able to figure out what they're doing now, and the Eagles aren't changing anything to help Saquon. I don't know. And that's stuff that hopefully we can figure out here in the next few weeks. But, the Eagles need to look at themselves in the mirror. They're going to keep, if they can't lose when they play like this, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens when they actually can put a full complementary game together. But that has been the struggle. The defense has done its part for the beginning of the season, and the Eagles offense is still lagging behind. and that's going to be the story until it isn't. And maybe this is exactly what it ends up being, that the offense just isn't as great despite having all these stars, and the defense does its part. They manage the game, they don't turn the ball over, and they keep winning. And when you think about it, sure, it works. And it works. I can't hate on it. It's good for now in the regular season. Can't play like this later on in the year. Expect to beat all these really good teams that you're about to go up against. You have dates with the Packers and the Lions coming up. You have the Chargers. You have, who took a tough loss today, right? But you have good teams coming up, and you have a date with the Bills at the very end of the season. Who knows what, seeding and all that, what that means in week 17. But, you guys we got good teams coming up. The schedule's only going to get harder. This is going to be this next stretch, these next 4 games. We have to figure something out. We have to establish a consistency, at least on the offensive side. The defense, I got to give them credit. They've been doing such a good job. So let's just do game balls here. I want to give a game ball to Jihaad Campbell, who finishes with his first interception today, his first career interception, and it was a big one. It was in the fourth quarter. Reed Blankenship got the tip, but he made a good play and ended up with it. He did give up that touchdown to Bucky Irving, but overall, I thought he made a lot of really good plays in this game. I thought the defense in general did a very solid job. And I got to give another MVP to Cooper DeJean, who was all over the place. Cooper DeJean did a really good job. He was laying guys out. He was always involved. Yes, he had one dumb penalty, but he was a force today in this game. And I want to give props to Quinyon Mitchell as well. He was being a little grabby today. Tom Brady pointed it out, but he made a lot of really good plays and really set the tone early on the defensive side of the ball. So those are my 3 defenders who get MVPs, but I also wanted to give an MVP to Cam Latu and Sidney Brown. They set the tone in this game, Cam Latu, with the punt block that led to Sidney Brown taking it for a touchdown to start off 7-0. Without that, we might not win, because this was a tone setter right from the gate. So that was the play of the game. And I think it was a really good job by our special teams to make another play in a game that makes a difference. So I thought the Eagles really figured it out. Not to mention, on the kickoff side of things, you can tell the Eagles were trying to, Jake Elliott was trying to do kind of like that line drive kick, and it worked out. The Eagles, kickoff team was working. On the punt side of things, though, that Cameron Johnson guy from Tampa Bay, he was getting big play after big play. So that's something, it didn't work out for them this week. But normally the Eagles special teams defensive unit is really good at bringing guys down. On the kickoffs, it helped. It worked today. On the punts, it left a little bit to be desired. But overall, this felt like another C-plus game. And again, to go on the road and win in Tampa Bay is a really good spot to be in. And now you're 4-0. You got the Broncos next week at home. Let's see if you guys can figure something out, right? So this is gonna be an interesting week. It's gonna be a frustrating week from a narrative perspective. Like, how good are these guys? Can they keep winning this way? Even though the team we just played has been winning in a very similar fashion, always needing to come from behind. The Eagles did their job. They were ahead. They maintained the lead, and they escape on the road with a tough victory. So I can't complain. I mean, I can complain. I am going to complain, because this team can be better. And they will be better. I hope. I believe they will be better. They have earned the benefit of the doubt. And if they can keep winning this way, and especially through this next stretch. So we'll see if they can kind of figure out a consistency. That's going to be the motto. That's going to be the key for the next 4 weeks for us as fans, is what we're going to be looking out for, is consistency, especially on the offensive side of the ball. All right, guys. So I think I'm going to leave it there. It's going to be a fun matchup next week against Denver. Ben and I will preview that during the week, and we appreciate all you guys who stuck around for this post-game pod. My name is Marcos Conan-Negron. If you guys want to hit us up, you can hit us up at behindthebackpod13@gmail.com. All of our socials, the links to our socials are going to be down in the description below. Please give us a like, subscribe, rate, review, follow the show. For you Eagles fans out there, were you on the edge of your seats? Did you guys think the Eagles were going to blow this comeback? Did you guys feel confident once we had a big lead? Let us know how disappointed you were in the offense, or do you think, where could the Eagles use work? Let us know in the comments below. But again, like I said before, I'm Marcos Conan-Negron. Beside me here, as always, is Ben the Jet Rets, and we will see you guys during the week. Peace. Fly, Eagles, fly.